Great evening. Happy Thursday. Thankful Thursday, my Shine Radiant friends and family. Here we are. Another week has passed, and it is time for some radiant rap. Hope you're having a great week. The weather here in Tampa, Florida is exquisite. This was a wonderful week. Just perfect paradise-like weather. Quite busy from the home front, but in a good way. Since I'm blessed to do what it is that I really love, it's not the same, of course, as if I were doing something that I hated. Then that would be a bad thing. This week, we're talking about stress. Stress. I mean, it's almost like a buzzword because we're hearing it so much. It's always about stress, day in, day out, what we can do to avoid it, to deal with it. And I just wanted to share a little bit from the perspective of when it's good and when it's bad. When stress is good and when stress is bad. So ask yourself, is there ever a time when stress is good? And is stress a bad thing? Well, Webster says it like this. A definition, I think it has like two definitions, but one of them is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension and may be a factor in disease causation. Does that sound good or does that sound bad? I think that sounds bad. That sounds bad. All right, well, another Webster definition is a state resulting from a stress, especially one of bodily and mental tension resulting from factors that tend to alter an existent equilibrium. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know, somewhere in that, I think bad, right? Okay, here's another definition that I believe is just a little more easy to hear and digest. Stress is the body's response to change. So if you hear it that way, stress is the body's response to change. Does that sound good or does that sound bad? All right, so depending on the definition that you use and depending on the connotation that you think of, there is a time when stress is good. And of course, stress can be bad. So when stress is a good thing, it's called eustress. And it's spelled eustress, eustress, as opposed to de-stress. So all stress is not the same. And this eustress, in fact, it is a primitive part of our body to survive so that we can survive. If we're in danger, the stress hormones kick in, body releases cortisol. That's the fight or flight system. These adrenal glands, get the pumping, and we're either going to stay and fight or we are going to flee and run. All right. That can save our lives to do that. So this this eustress is really important, because without it, we could be in danger. It also, more than that, it helps us to stay motivated. It helps us to reach our goals. It helps us to feel good about, our lives. So it can help to energize us. It can help us to feel excited instead of overwhelmed. Okay, it can help us. It's part of a coping mechanism. And so in a short-term situation, when we stress, it can help us to focus, and it can help us with our performance. Not bad, right? But there is a point where if we go beyond that, then we're in distress. And so distress, or chronic stress, right? If it lasts over a long period of time, it can truly make us sick. Truly, because that's when we have anxiety, and, it's just out of control. So it's not a good feeling. We all stress, and we all can go in and out of the various degrees of stress, right? Some more so than others. But when we're feeling stressed, it's not always a bad thing. And I think it's important for us to recognize and understand that it's not all bad, because studies show that just thinking that stress is bad all the time can help to increase factors to make us sick. All right. So the chronic stress, for short or a long term, it can be short or it can be long. And remember, I said for a short period of time, even the chronic stress, even bad stress, can save your life. Jumping out of the street for a car that's coming in, right? That is good. But when it lasts all day, every day, like we cannot come out of that anxious feeling, that's when it is bad, because then instead of it increasing our performance, it can decrease our performance. Instead of helping us to focus, it can cause us to have anxiety so that we cannot focus. So it can affect us negatively, physically, psychologically, emotionally. It can affect it can affect us cognitively, so that we can't respond well. And as we age, those responses can be slower to turn off. That response, that stressor system can be slower to turn off. Right? So we want to kind of look at the range of stress, okay, in our lives. So if there's never any stress at all, no level of nothing, remember the eustress is good stress, but there's just nothing. If there's just nothing, it's like a bored life. You're bored. It's nothing. There's no stress at the bottom. And then if you start getting into this healthy tension, it'll kind of go increase till you're in that euro stress. And that's when, maybe if you're an athlete and you're competing, or you're working on a project for your job, or you're preparing for an exam, and you have that type of eustress, then you're locked in. You're going to be more focused, have more motivation, and more creativity. Does that make sense? That eustress. Have you ever heard that word? Because I hadn't. I didn't know that word, eustress. And again, it's spelled eustress, eustress. However, there comes a point where you go over whatever that balance is. So it's about the balance into distress. And then once you get into that de-stress mode, it can make you feel overwhelmed or tired. And worse yet, that's when you have the panic attacks, you have the anxiety, or you're pissed off, you're angry, right? So we want to practice, and this is where the mindset comes in, because sometimes it is about how we're thinking about a particular situation can dictate whether it goes all the way into that chronic stress mode. And if we have habits, we've created habits of staying there, because you know what? Even feelings of stress, so feelings that are bad, we can create habits of wanting to release that chemical. Because think about it. It's a chemical release. It's cortisol. If we're used to releasing that chemical, we're used to that stress, even if it's bad, but we're used to it. We're used to getting that fix all the time. Even if it's a bad fix, we kind of feel like that's our normal. That's who we are, right? So it's important for us to become aware of these things so that we can potentially, and sometimes we need, other tools to help us, but just in general, help us to deal better with the stress. So the other day, and I'm one of those, I'm one of these individuals that I can get anxious or excited really easy, and was for years in a habit of stressing, thinking of, okay, what could go wrong, all the things that could go wrong, and just stressing. So the other day, these type of situations, I had an appointment. It was an important appointment because it was to recertify, to take a practical portion of a certification that I need to practice, to teach my classes, to do my coaching. It's CPR. You have to have it. It's like, if you don't have that, you're in compliance of all my others. So I need it for all my yoga certifications, my to teach. I cannot teach. I cannot train and be in compliance without this CPR. So I have a little cushion of when I could complete the exam, and because of COVID, I use the ASHI, American Society of Heart Institute, I think it stands for. I use that certification, so I had a little cushion there. It was a hybrid, do a part of it on the computer, but you have to do the practical in person. So I had this appointment set up. I gave myself time to leave. You got to remember, everywhere you go, well, it's starting to change, but still, for me, it's not changing yet. I need my mask. I need my purse. You need your IDs. You need your driver's license. So, and I had enough time so that I would get there and be 15 minutes early. 15 minutes early, where I'm sitting in my car, parked, waiting. I can't find my purse. So I start looking and I can't find my purse. So probably after 20 minutes, and I'm one where I put things because I know, I'll lose things. I put things in the same places all the time. It's not in the place. And does that ever happen to you where you know you put something the same place every time? It's not there, but you keep going back there to look because that's where you put it, right? And I'm running around the house, going to all these different areas that I could have gone since I last had my purse the day before. Now, it was possible because I had taken my purse to pick up something to eat, and Kevin and I had sat at in an outside a restaurant area while we waited for our food. I remember it was the backpack, taking it out. So I call them, but I can't find my purse and they cannot help me. And I just look until I know I've run out of time. I know that I have to call the place, call the instructor. Now, this was after I'm running around, look. This means my credit cards, I'm going to have to order new credit cards. I'm going to have to get a new driver's license. I mean, this means a lot of stuff, but hold it. Take a breath instead of going spinning, spiraling out of control, because there's only certain things I can control now in this situation. Me and how I respond is one of the things that I can control. Now let me think, because if you start getting into all that, you can't even think, right? When you get into that higher end of anxiety, you can't think. You've been there? It's not just me, right? So I took a breath, and that's when I said, okay, I need to call her. That's the first thing I need to do. And of course, what does she say? The instructor, okay. And I tell her, I don't know when I'm going to be able to reschedule because I'm going to have to get ID. And so if I don't find my purse, I'm going to have to, and no problem. She says, we'll just reschedule. You take care of that. You know what I'm saying? What else is she going to say? Right. And now I'm thinking next steps. But be calm, because there's nothing else. There's no anxiety. There's no me freaking out that's going to make things change. Now, this story turned out to be a good ending to this story, and I was thinking it should be, because at the same time that I couldn't find my purse, I couldn't find my keys. How could you get home if you don't have your keys, Shannon? It has to be around this house somewhere. But it was just a mess, because we don't have like a lot of stuff in our house. I wouldn't say we're minimalist, but there's just a lot of there's not a lot of places to put stuff. And anyways, I usually put it in a cabinet. It was in the wrong cabinet. It was in a cabinet, a really weird place. I don't know what I was thinking. I obviously wasn't when I put my purse away, but it was in the cabinet right next to the cabinet that I usually put it in. And it was just weird. But anyways, I'm sharing that to say that me taking a breath, calming myself, and then thinking about what it is that I can do helped me to calm down. And it may have been that I would have had to go through every single, get a driver's license. It may have turned out to be that way. But me freaking out was not going to help anything, except everything that it would do is bad. Raise my blood pressure, may have me boiling inside, and not being able to be efficient, and so that's what I wanted to share with us today. One, that there is times when stress is a good thing. It helps us. It helps to keep us safe, and it helps us to be more focused and more creative. But once it goes into Yes. Well, see, this is your field too, right? I mean, this is more your field. I'm looking at the physiological aspects of it. Cheryl, thank you. Yes, you stress, not de-stress. Correct. And thank you for sharing that. And that is what we need to practice more. And understanding that not all stress is bad, because just even thinking that anytime that we're stressing, we're doing something bad to our body can cause more stress. And once we go into that chronic stress, it can lead to things like not sleeping well, heart disease, diabetes. I mean, it really it can have bad long-term effects. So we want to, it just increases all of those degenerative diseases. So we really want to look at how we're managing stress and using, even within the acronym RADIANT, using those key factors of rest, of activity awareness. That's one of them, being aware of how we're thinking, what our mindset is, how we're thinking about things, our diet, our introspection, making sure that we are doing some type of meditational breathing techniques, things like that, drinking plenty of water, our doing our affirmations and note taking, maybe writing in a journal, that note taking, and then exercise or training. All of those things can help us to manage stress better. We want to have a balance. Eurostress, like Cheryl said, and she's a psychologist, okay, not de-stress. All right. I love you. There is not a thing you can do about it. You have greatness inside of you. Stress can be healthy. Distress, especially when we're doing it over long periods of time, no bueno. It's exhausting and it can make you sick. All right, my friends, you have greatness inside of you. I believe in you. Let's go. Let's be our healthiest selves. All right? Yay. Bye for now.